So just in a quick nutshell, so Scott Stone, you're with us at CREM too, but you also have a pilot's license. So tell me, how long have you been licensed to fly?
Yeah, I've had my pilot's license for I think about 6 years now. My private pilot's license.
And what sort of aircraft do you fly?
I fly now. I fly. It's called a Cherokee. It's a small private plane, low wing airplane. But I've flown Cessnas and Cherokees most of my short time flying.
Awesome. So to kind of give perspective, as a pilot of 6 years, what may have gone on with this crash over Lake Coeur d'Alene? Kind of give us an idea, how would something like this happen? We know Kootenai County Sheriff's Office knows that the two planes had collided in midair, so it's not uncommon to see it being pretty busy out over Lake Coeur d'Alene. So I was wondering if you could give insight on the visual challenges there might be out in that area.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to speculate at all what happened. It's always hard to know what went on in the air, and I don't have a ton of information obviously as well. I would just say from my experience, I have flown out over Lake Coeur d'Alene a number of times, just on scenic flights myself and with friends and that sort of thing. And one of the challenges with Lake Coeur d'Alene and a lot of areas in our region, just because it is such a mountainous area, is when you do get to a lower altitude, you do tend to lose radar contact with air traffic control. So I know personally, I've flown over Lake Coeur d'Alene, and there's times where I have started to lose contact with air traffic control. And at that point, you don't have to stay in contact with air traffic control if you don't want to, or the best thing really would be to just get up higher in the air and you can stay in contact with them. Unless you want to go low over the lake, you can, and it's legal, and you don't have to maintain contact with them, but you'll likely do lose contact with the radar when you go low over those regions where there's a mountain in between you and air traffic control.
Yeah. And so communication with the mountains, that poses a challenge as far as communicating with the tower, though, but you don't necessarily always have to be in communication with the tower. Right? Can you kind of explain what those rules are?
Yeah, so there's controlled airspace. So in our region, there's controlled airspace around Spokane International Airport, as well as Feltzfield Airport. But once you get out of those airspaces, you don't have to stay in contact with air traffic control if you're flying under what's called visual flight rules. So you can, if you want, you can request to stay in contact with air traffic control, and they typically will give you information about other traffic in the area. But in the instance where you're flying under just visual flight rules, you can also opt to not stay in contact with air traffic control. And then it's, in that case, and in all cases in the visual flight rules, it is your job as pilot in command to maintain separation with other aircraft in the region.
Yeah. So visual flight rules, you don't have to be talking, but just kind of keeping your head on a swivel, right? What sort of things would you be keeping an eye out for? What are you doing when you're following visual flight rules?
Yeah, so with visual flight rules, I mean, it has the name because it's literally like visual, looking out the window. So, typically there are rules in place to maintain separation from other aircraft, but there are also processes that we follow as pilots to kind of scan the airspace, looking for potential traffic. It's really hard to see other planes in the air, harder than I think people would think it is. But there are processes that we follow to try to maintain separation and make sure that we see any other traffic that could be in the area.
Why is that? You mentioned it may be harder than you think it is to kind of keep your head on a swivel there. Why is that?
It's planes are moving. They're moving really fast, and so and also if you think of the profile of an airplane, I mean, if you're looking straight onto an airplane and the wing is flat, it's much harder to see. If there's been times for me, there's been times where I knew there was traffic in the area, but I couldn't find them and they couldn't see me. So maybe I'll lift up a wing or, tilt to my right or whatever to try to create a bigger profile, instead of your wing being this direction, now it's maybe this direction or it's turned, to try to create more of a profile so there's something to actually see or maybe reflect from the sun. But if you're straight onto another airplane and they're coming straight at you, or they're at the same altitude as you. It's a very small profile that you're looking for. It's really hard to see those in the air.
You mentioned you've flown over Lake Coeur in the past yourself. Does it seem pretty busy as far as air traffic when you've gone over, or is it always busy? What's it been like up there?
Good question. I haven't really experienced too much traffic in the area. I don't tend to go over there too much in the summer when it's obviously that all the air traffic is quite a bit busier. So I haven't been in the area when it's that busy, but you know, obviously I've been in the area out on a boat or, you know, out at the lake, and you tend to see more planes in the summertime when it's nice sightseeing and stuff. It's a beautiful lake, so it's even more beautiful from the air.
Yeah. And then one last question, just kind of in a nutshell, I was hoping you kind of give some perspective on this as well that we talked about. So Kootenai County Sheriff's Office mentioned that our area is pretty unique in the fact that Spokane International Airport kind of controls air traffic in our area, but we also have a lot of private aircraft and airports in our area. And so they said it's not uncommon for small planes or private airports not really to be tracked as well as commercial airlines. I was wondering if you kind of give perspective on why that is.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, in our area, Phelps Field Airport and then Spokane International are both controlled airports. So they have towers. So if you were to land or take off from those airports, you have to be talking to a tower who is basically giving you permission, and they're the ones that are maintaining separation. So if there's multiple airplanes flying into Spokane International, there's a tower that's going to line you up and give you, you know, tell you which who gets to land first and that sort of thing, and maintain separation. At uncontrolled airports like Coeur d'Alene Airport in our area, there's a lot in our area. Deer Park, Sandpoint, you know, some of the bigger ones, but they're all uncontrolled, meaning there's no tower there. So in that scenario, you're just talking to the other pilots, maintaining your own separation. And so when you're coming in or when you're taking off for landing at those airports, there is no tower, so you don't have to be talking to air traffic control. You're just talking to the local traffic in the area. And again, this is all under visual flight rules. In that scenario, you're just talking to the other traffic and as the pilot maintaining that separation.
Great. I think that hits it on the head. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.